Um, well, in the FMCG industry, I would say if I look at who our consumers are, and it doesn't matter in which branch we are talking now, which product we are talking now, if we are looking at who our consumers are in fast-moving goods, at least 50% of consumers is women. And if I look at the ones who make the purchasing decision, it's often more than 50% women, more than the 50% women who take that decision. So actually, you would say that in all of the fast-moving consumer goods industries, it would be natural to have women well represented in the workforce. The fact that there are only 2 female managing directors in Tanzania, I think there are many more. Because if we look at entrepreneurs and smaller businesses, then definitely those are quite often run by women. And if we look at our industry, the beer industry, several distributors who we work with are run by the woman in the company.
Right. So if you're saying that currently it would be natural for the women to actually take or spearhead some of these movements like in the FMCG industry, as you're saying, what do you think is currently stalling Tanzania's move towards gender equity? Because we're still seeing a lot not happening in terms of policy and laws being enacted on.
Yes. Well, I think the big challenge still lies in education.
Right.
If we don't have the same number of girls attending schools as boys, and in universities, not as many young women as there are men, then over time it's not going to change. So that is really a big challenge to make sure that we get more participation of girls in the schooling and in education. If I look at and these can be sometimes caused by simple things. I don't want to go into the detail of several policies that aren't necessarily helping. But if I, for instance, look at fetching water in remote communities or working on the land, is often given as a role to women, whereas the boys are allowed to go to school. And one reason, for instance, why in our corporate social responsibility program we focus so much on creating wells and boreholes and bring clean water to communities is not only to bring that clean water, but to especially allow the girls that they have then time to go to school instead of having to go fetch water. And so I would say the key really lies in education.
Right. So if I asked you, would you clearly say that this is a case of chores that they're given back at home? Because I just read through a couple statistics there showing that about 20% of the women between the age of 18 to 24 do have a primary education, but that same number, age 18 to 24, don't necessarily complete secondary school. So is it because they're necessarily given a lot to take care of back at home, or is it the system that is not built for them?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I can't really judge on the education system or the secondary schools.
Right.
And I can't really look at what is happening in the households. Definitely, quite often the household chores are left to women, whereas the mature women then also have a work on the side to bring an income home. But if I look at business, and if I look at my own particular business, we really take diversity very serious. Diageo takes diversity very serious, and that is in all the different businesses that we have around Africa and actually around the world. And to give you an idea, we have, of course, targets in terms of profitability and in terms of volume, market share, and those would be the usual targets in the FMCG industry. But we also have a target on females in the workforce, and that is pretty unique, I think, and the target is 30%. Do we reach the 30% in Tanzania yet? No, not yet. And where it is a common practice to then say, okay, for candidates, for vacancies, you would have 50-50, 50% men, 50% women. In our case, because we want to extend the number of women, we would go for certain positions to 70% women candidates and 30% women candidates. What is our problem? Apparently, there are other businesses also fishing in that same talent pool, and it's very hard for us to find enough women and to find enough, certainly for particular technical roles or more special roles, to find the right candidates.
Right, Helene, of course, we're still looking at a couple of the strategies or approaches that need to be put in place to see that the country can actually achieve the gender equality, but also women empowerment on the same. Speak to me from where you stand. What do you think or deem as of a matter of emergency, something that could be done urgently? Because, well, we don't need to see a lot of lagging behind there.
Yeah. Yes, well, I think a few elements. I mentioned elementary schools for the really young girls. You mentioned secondary schools, definitely. University, what we also need to do is to make sure that women do believe in their abilities. If I speak to women, they think it is easier to go to set my own business and then working for a company. And it's that self-confidence that we need to build. Starting an own business is a really great thing to do. But what I'm hearing from some women that run their own businesses or trying to set up their own business is that there is still, let's say, there's still sometimes an attitude of potential clients that think that the good or the service that is being produced by this company comes with something extra, and that's very hard for them to deal with that. So where I would say in the law there is equality, not always is that put in practice. And that's not only the case in Tanzania. I think that is a wider international situation.
Right. So before I let you go, do you see the engagement here, or are we seeing the private sector heavily invested in such conversation in the country currently?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes, because what we try to do is to indeed establish programs where we hire women, we give them a number of years of experience, and then have a network between companies where we try to say, okay, let's see if we can exchange a person from your company to my company to give broader experience. But those are drops on a big plate. I think where we need to look at is really at the companies, and that's a part that I can manage, that's a part that the directors that you earlier mentioned can manage, where we really do our best to train, to retain, to grow the females that we have, and to hire more where possible. And also, I want to say to the women, and when we were talking about be self-confident, you know, if I look at my own career, I didn't start with the idea to make a career. I wanted to do work and jobs where I would have fun and where I could be myself. Yes, that is easier in a more diverse environment than it is in a male-dominated environment, and most of the industries where I've been in were very male-dominated.
Right.
But in the end, what it comes down to is be yourself, try and have fun. We have a much better chance to demonstrate our strengths